Heyo, welcome back to the Undrafted and Unqualified Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Anthony, back again. Exciting episode for you guys today. Today we're going to be doing a hype train audit. So, got a list of names that are gaining a lot of, hypes throughout this offseason so far, and I'm going to talk about if I like them or not. Am I buying it? Am I buying into it? So, we'll talk about a number of players today. We got some fun things to do. We are creeping up on episode 50. So hopefully we have something fun to do for that episode. We're still figuring it out. I'm figuring it out with Vinny. He'll hopefully be back for episode 50, maybe the next two if we get lucky. But yeah, either way, we're going to have a couple good episodes coming up. May do a mock draft soon too. That's always fun. So we might do that for episode 50. We'll see. But yeah, we're going to start with the hype train audit today, talking about some names and, really if we're buying into that or not. No news to talk about today. So, what I'm going to do is just hop right into it. What I've done with these names, so I have a list of 8 names here. And what I've done with these names is I've decided, do I buy it? And I'm factoring in price as well. So, if I'm buying it, awesome. Like, it's just a clear yes. I'll talk about why I buy it. There's also, no, not buying it. Or I do buy the talent, but I don't like the draft cost. So that is also another category where it's kind of that middle ground. So I'm buying into the talent, but I don't like the draft cost. So you could say no, but I want to emphasize that I do like the talent. But let's get into it. First name up, I have Ken Walker, who is currently, according to Fantasy Pros, sitting at RB12. Do we buy the hype? My answer is yes. Very simply, yes. I think RB12 might even be a little low. We've talked about it before when we were doing kind of that free agency recap. Vinny and I, we talked about where he could kind of fall in that 7 to 10 range, and I think that'd be great. Hearing about some people saying he's top 5, that feels a little rich, but 12 feels low. I think that 7 to 10 range is pretty comfy, pretty good spot. If we just read some of the other names around here, right above him, you have Josh Jacobs. Now, okay, he was a little banged up last year. He's very solid. But, Ken Walker's in Kansas City. Saquon Barkley, he's coming off a pretty rough year. And there's a lot of questions surrounding, is he just done? Sometimes that just happens with running backs. Is he just done? Chase Brown above that, okay, are you buying into that? Really, that second half of Chase Brown last season. Ashton Genty, Amarian Hampton, 2 rookies where they didn't live up to their full potential yet. And that takes you up to, that's 11 through 7 right there. So, the top 6 I won't get into, but, I think there's arguments for Ken Walker to be above any of those guys, to be really honest with you. I haven't done my rankings. I don't know where I'll be placing him, but I think Ken Walker's in a great situation, okay? Eric Bieniemy is back as the offensive coordinator. It's an opportunity for him to be a true workhorse. They didn't bring anybody to really take anything away. Amari DeMarcado they brought in the offseason as well. I think DeMarcado may get a little bit of passing work, but it's really not going to take away too much. Ken Walker's going to be the goal line back. They paid him a lot of money to be the bell cow. The biggest concern is his injury history. Last season it was his healthiest season yet, and it was partially maybe due to splitting time. But, I don't want to factor that in. I never want to factor in injury unless there's an extensive history. They paid him to be a bell cow. So I'm going to ride that. I think it's a great situation for Ken Walker. And with Eric Bieniemy, I mean, there were a couple really good years of Kareem Hunt. Even Clyde Edwards-Helaire, his rookie year, was very good. So I think, honestly, I'm in on Ken Walker. I think he's going to be a bell cow, one of the few probably left in the league. He's young. He's in a great situation, great offense. It just feels like a smash spot for him to land in. So I am absolutely buying the hype on Ken Walker. Next name up, Jackson Dart. He's been gaining a lot of, is he the guy? He's got that rushing upside. They bring in Harbaugh to be the coach, John Harbaugh, out from Baltimore. And it's like, okay, well, now we got something going here. He's going at QB7. So this is my first one where I'm going to say, yes, I love the talent. I think Dart's in a great situation. I think QB7's too rich for me, though. I think that is too high. I like the talent, but I don't like the spot. I think QB7, we've talked about it before. This is a deep year of quarterbacks. You have Josh Allen, Lamar, Drake May, Burrow, Daniels, and Hurts right above him. That feels appropriate. You have Justin Herbert behind him, Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, who had a great year last year, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy. You have Mahomes. You have Matthew Stafford. I mean, it's a long list of guys where it just like I would much prefer to just sit and not reach on dart at QB7 and take one of these other guys. And then we want to talk rushing upside. You think about Tyler Shuck, maybe Malik Willis, maybe Kyler Murray, Cam Ward even potentially, who I brought up last week. So there's a bunch of other guys who have these rushing potential, and it's like you look at the offense. Sure, John Harbaugh's there. That's a huge upgrade. They got Malik Neighbors, elite of the elite at wide receiver, coming off an ACL tear. You have Scadaboo coming off a major injury as well. You have, they brought in Isaiah Likely. They have Darnell Mooney. So there's a couple pieces there, but really it's not that great. Thinking about Shuck, just to compare real quick, like Olave. See, Neighbors level? No, but Olave is elite. I mean, last year was an amazing year for him. They got ETN. I mean, I like that running back situation better than the Giants right now. You got Juwan Johnson, who I think is a very capable pass catcher. Isaiah Likely, we've seen flashes, but we haven't seen him do it as in like a full-time role just yet. So I think I like Dart's situation. I like that they bring in Harbaugh. I like the rushing upside. We talk about the rushing upside being that, you want a guy with rushing upside, especially late. It just feels a little rich. And I like Dart. I like the potential. Could he finish at QB7 or better? Absolutely. And I fully believe that. It just feels like the thing holding me back too is Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy coming in at offensive coordinator. Last few years in Kansas City, their offense wasn't that good, if we're being really honest. And, Andy Reid's running the show over there. I don't know how much Harbaugh's going to be running it compared to Nagy now in this new system with the Giants, but for them to pivot from Cliff Kingsbury to Matt Nagy, I don't like that at all. So it does leave me a little pause there. I think, take away Matt Nagy, I'd be feeling a lot better about the price, and I'd probably give it just a straight up yes. But I think there's just I don't like it with Matt Nagy, honestly. And the running game right now, it doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel too good. And, we'll see what they do in the draft. I think they have a pretty strong defense, too, which is like, all right, well, then you might want to run a little more as a team. So I don't love the situation for Jackson Dart as a whole with Matt Nagy. But, I'm a believer in the talent. I love Malik Neighbors there for him. I like Likely and the upside he has. But I think QB7's a little rich. So that's my stance there with that second name. On to name number 3. Going back to the running back position, incoming rookie, Jeremiah Love. All right, we don't know situation. So, what's the situation going to be? Where's he going to end up? Is he going to end up in Tennessee? Is he going to end up with the Giants in a timeshare with Scadaboo, Tracy, Singletary? Is he going to Washington and have that role all to himself? We don't know yet, and we kind of have to wait a little bit, but I'm all in. I'm all in on the talent. I think he's going to be a true workhorse. I think Tennessee and Washington are great landing spots where he can take on a full-time role in okay offense for the Titans and a good offense for Washington. And I think, I'm just a believer in the talent. I really am. I think this is a great, great player, potentially top 2 talent-wise in the class. He won't go top 2, but, I think I'm just a believer in the talent. So for him, he's sitting at RB13 right now, one spot behind Ken Walker. And that just feels great. That feels like a smash spot, regardless of where he lands. I don't think it's too rich. Like Genti was back end of the first last year, around like that RB6 spot. That felt rich. We're thinking now, an extra 6 running backs later. This is round 2, round 3 maybe. Probably 2, just because people love the rookies. We all love the rookies. We love the hype. But, I'm a believer in the talent. I hope the landing spot works out for him. I hope it's not the Giants, but just off of pure talent and the situation he could end up in and what it seems to be that he could end up in, I like it a lot. And, if it is a timeshare with the Giants, okay, it's not great. Probably RB13 is then questionable. But, and, maybe the Bengals, if somehow he gets to the Bengals, it's like, well, okay, he'll be splitting time with Chase Brown, but it's an elite offense. I don't know. I think I'm banking on Washington. I'm hoping for Washington. Him with Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin, and now they got Chigakonkwo. I like that a lot, and I think they're not done at receiver. To be honest, I think Ayuk could end up there. I think there's a chance that Stephon Diggs could end up there. So I think they're not done. And we could see this offense improve even a little more. We'll see what they do in the draft. We'll see what they do as a whole, the rest of the offseason. But Jaden Daniels coming back healthy, I like the spot a lot, and it seems like it would be his backfield. They brought in Rashad White, 1 year deal. Jerome Ford, 1 year deal. Bill Krosky wasn't very good last year. We hyped him up all offseason long, and then it was like, wow, this guy is just not that good. He had a couple games where he went off. It was awesome, but I think if Jeremiah Love were to go there, that would be my preferred landing spot, and I'd like him more than RB13. But we'll see. I'm saying just alone at RB13, based on the talent, love the spot. So I am buying into the hype on Jeremiah Love. Next name up, Luther Burden. All right, Luther Burden is currently sitting at wide receiver 20. Oh, feels rich. No, I love it. I think he will lead this Chicago Bears offense in terms of passing. I think he'll be the leader in target share. I think he'll be the leader in the passing game. There's Colston Loveland, Roman Dunze, right? But no DJ Moore. Colston Loveland, he could absolutely split that time too. Roman Dunze is an X. He's great. But these are now Ben Johnson's guys, Loveland and Burden. I also seen Burden in person, as I may have mentioned last week. I think he's an elite wide receiver. I think the talent is there. I buy the talent a lot, and he's in an electric offense. So for him to be at wide receiver 20, is it rich? Probably. Probably a little rich. You got Devontae Smith, Jameson Williams, Jalen Waddle, Terry McLaurin, all right behind him. And any of those names you could absolutely argue to take over Burden. But you're in a Ben Johnson offense. You got a great quarterback. You got elite talent. You're going into year two. I mean, all the things we talked about in a breakout wide receiver last week, I think it just fits here. And, the talent, though, I mean, I'm just a fan of his game. I think he's a great receiver. I think he can do it, at all levels of the field. The concern is, do you believe he's going to be the one on this offense? Do you believe it's going to be Loveland? Do you believe it's going to be Adunze? If he's not the one, do you believe it's enough to take him at wide receiver 20? As of right now, I'd say yes. I probably got to do a little bit more of a deep dive to really look into it, think about exactly where I want to rank him and how much it would be. But I like the talent a lot, man. I think he's going to get it done. He's in great offense. Ben Johnson, good situation. I'm buying the hype. I am. And so all of these guys so far, out of these first four guys, I'm buying three of them. One was just I buy the talent, but a little rich in the price tag. But yeah, I mean, Burden's one of those guys. This feels like a very rich price tag at wide receiver 20. But I mean, I think you could be okay taking him there. I mean, back in wide receiver 2 technically, and I think he's going to be fine. I could see myself ending up passing if people are starting to go even higher with him, but we'll see. I think wide receiver 20 is a fine spot, honestly. The next name I have up, Amarian Hampton, who is currently the RB8. Now look, my answer is yes. But at a lower cost. I think RB8 is just a little high, just by a little too. I think 10 to 12 feels a little more fitting, just off rip. I think, you have Mike McDaniel there. Love it. I love it. And you have Herbert, you have Jim Harbaugh, you got, wide receivers around. That offensive line is getting a huge boost, by the way. They're getting both offensive tackles back. I believe, I have to look this up, but Chargers free agent signings. Let's see. But I believe they brought in a center. Tyler Biadasz. I may be butchering that name like crazy. But Tyler Biadasz. They also brought in Charlie Kohler, who's pretty solid blocking tight end too. I mean, they're improving the blocking for Justin Herbert, and that also helps Amarian Hampton. So RB8, it feels just a little high just because I don't think we had a big sample size of him last year. And for me to put him that high, it feels a little rich. Now, will I be in on him this season? Absolutely. Even if my ranking is slightly lower, I think I'm going to love him in that spot. It's just going to be a matter of where's the public taking him? We love the young guys. It's a year two guy. It's a Chargers electric offense with Mike McDaniel now. It's like, wow, we all want this guy. But I think RB8, just looking at, I'll name some of these guys again right behind him. Chase Brown. Well, Chase Brown's done it. He's with the Bengals. I mean, he feels great. Saquon, I'm kind of off Saquon. Josh Jacobs, Ken Walker, I'd maybe even go above Hampton as of right now. So, maybe a couple spots lower. I just think hearing RB8, the price tag alone just feels very rich. I mean, that's usually a second round pick. Are you willing to do that with Hampton? I can understand it, and I'm all for the talent. I'm all for the situation. I just think there's a couple guys behind there that might be a little safer and might even have a higher ceiling like Ken Walker and Chase Brown. So that's my stance there. Love it, though. If anything, it's slightly lower. But yeah, I love Hampton. Next name up, Kyler Murray. New quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. He's currently QB 21. Now, I think that's going to rise a lot. Let me be very clear. I think that's going to rise quite a bit. I think he'll get into the top 15 if I had to guess. Easy, late round dart throw. We're going off of QB 21 right now, but that rushing upside, we know in the late round quarterbacks, that is something you want to target. We talk about it all the time. Drake May last year, Caleb Williams last year. Some of these guys, it's like, do they have the rushing upside? If they do, awesome. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he wasn't a guy we were targeting for that rushing upside, but he ended up having rushing upside, and he rushed well. He ran for, I think, 9 touchdowns it was last year, and that proves to lead to a good fantasy finish. I mean, he ended in the top 5. So we see it time and time again. A quarterback who rushes, it translates well. I don't know if I buy Kyler Murray's talent, to be completely honest, but I'm buying into Kevin O'Connell. I think he's turned in some quarterbacks who have been completely written off, such as Sam Darnold, such as Daniel Jones, and now, I mean, Sam Darnold won a Super Bowl last year with the Seahawks as a very quality starter. Then you have Daniel Jones, who turned in a very quality season with the Colts. They started, 8-1, something like that. They went out and traded for Sauce Gardner, thinking they're making the playoffs and being this top end, maybe 1-seed team in the AFC. Didn't work out that way. He got hurt, didn't finish the season strong, but I think Kevin O'Connell's great. I'm personally a believer that it's not Kevin O'Connell's fault with J.J. McCarthy. I think they've reached on J.J. McCarthy. I think J.J. McCarthy's just not it, personally. And when we're comparing the two, okay, J.J.'s a rookie. Maybe it's going to take a year or two for him to develop if he has it. I don't believe he does, but if he has it, it might take some time. Whereas these other guys he's developed, like Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold, have already been in the league for a couple years. They come over from a new team, they work under him, and then they end up being really good elsewhere. I could see that happening with Kyler. It's a 1-year deal. He could absolutely go get that 1-year deal and then go get paid somewhere else. They could tag him. They could do, there's a number of things they could do. But I think this is a great situation for the Vikings and Kyler Murray. That rushing upside, we're always targeting it. He's got Justin Jefferson. He's got Kevin O'Connell. He's got solid line, much better team than the Cardinals. And I think the system around him is going to fit a lot better for him. And, hopefully that rushing upside comes back a little bit. And, he ends up being pretty good. Maybe he gets some touchdowns. Hopefully injuries don't overwhelm him again. But he's got TJ Hawkinson. Could he be washed? Yes, but, solid tight end still. Jordan Addison's a great receiver, in my opinion. Decent running backs to at least move the ball a little bit, but a rushing quarterback, he might take it anyways. So I'm in on Kyler. Price tag at QB 21, I expect it to rise quite a bit. I think that 12 to 15 range is very appropriate, and if it gets there, awesome. It'll be, I buy the hype at that price tag, but right now I'm all in. I think he's a steal if he stays down at QB 21. Next name up, let's just stick with the quarterbacks for the time being. The next name I got is Malik Willis. Malik Willis, quarterback 18, and we're talking about it. It's that rushing upside. Yeah, absolutely. He was electric in that one start for Green Bay last year as well. This is my first no. It's going to be my first and only no. Not to spoil the next one, but my first and only no of this episode. I think the talent could be there, we just don't have a true sample size. I know he was in a great system in Green Bay, great opportunity to learn and then come over. He got a decent bag with the Dolphins, but it's a defensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator is now the head coach, right? Jeff Halfley. And I know that Malik Willis was there with him in Green Bay and the GM was with him in Green Bay, but they're not the offensive guys. Then you're bringing in Bobby Slowick. You're just moving him up the ranks from the Dolphins or whatever. He was like a passing game coordinator, something like that. Now he's their offensive coordinator. Don't love that for Malik Willis development. The rushing upside will be there, but I don't like the situation at all. They trade away Jalen Waddle. Devon Achan's your only guy. Only guy. I don't think the O-line's incredible. Your best receiver is Tutu Atwell. Now, they could go in the draft. They could draft maybe a Jordan Tyson, a Carnell Tate, a Makai Lemon, one of those top three guys, and all of a sudden the situation's looking a little better, and QB18 is not too bad. But I'm going off of right now, and there's also a good chance they go cornerback with that first pick or, another position entirely. And if they don't take a wide receiver in the first round, well, I mean, I'm off a little bit. I think I'm hesitant. I'm a little hesitant anyways, even before Waddle got traded with like, okay, Willis, I'm taking purely because of that rushing upside. But, I don't mind taking him as a second quarterback and it's a dart throw, but I would prefer Kyler Murray at 3 spots lower. I would prefer, who else is around him? Tyler Shuck, QB20, 2 spots below him. Maybe even a Cam Ward if you're a believer at QB 24. So there's just a couple names I would prefer. The situation is horrendous. It might be the worst position, like skill position players in the league for a quarterback. I mean, it makes the Browns situation look not terrible because there's Jerry Jeudy, there's Harold Fannin. I mean, he doesn't even have a tight end. His 3 wide receivers, Malik Willis, he's got Tutu Atwell, Jalen Tolbert, Malik Washington. I think that's your 3 starters. Like, that's terrible. That's horrendous. So I'm out for that reason. I think the Packers were a much better situation, and yeah, it worked out for him in his one start. But I can't buy into it. I can't. And it's just one situation where there's other guys I'd rather target in better situations who also have that rushing upside. So yes, if you like Malik Willis, you're buying into the talent, sure, go get him. But for me, it's just I think there's better guys with better situations around him that I would prefer to target. And last name, going over to the tight end position, Colston Loveland. I already talked a tiny bit about him with Luther Burden. This is, yes, I buy the talent very much so. He was a very early pick. He went over Tyler Warren, who was kind of considered, he's the tight end 1 of last year's draft class. But no, tight end 10, teams were calling, trying to move up. They wanted him. So, that's where the NFL is seeing stuff we're not seeing as fans and, fantasy podcasters, and just fans of the game. So I think Colston Loveland, I think the talent's there. We started to see it towards the end of last year. My problem is the price. I think the price is too rich at tight end 3. Could he absolutely finish there? Sure, yeah. But, let's look at some of the other names around him. There's Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren, I think he has a much more clear path to be the number 1 guy on the Colts offense. I think, the thing holding me back from Loveland is he could easily just fall into that 3rd target on the team behind Odunze, behind Luther Burden, who Luther Burden I think will be the number 1. But he got a good rushing attack too, and I think it feels like it's an unclear situation. The talent's there, it just feels like an unclear situation so for him to be at 3 above Warren, above Fannin, above some other names, it feels a little rich just because it's unclear of how good, how will he be in this offense. The offense is great. Those are the pieces you want, but Warren feels like a clear 1 in a solid offense with Daniel Jones. He was elite with him during the first half of the year, and he was like the tight end 3 or something like that for the first half of the year. So I like Warren a lot. I think look at Fannin too. Oh no, terrible offense. The situation's not great. Touchdowns may not come like it could for Loveland, but I think his target share might be through the roof. I think he could be, 10 targets a game almost. And this guy's an athletic freak too, Fannin. So I think it's just, do you want the touchdown upside? Do you think Loveland can be the 1? Or, are you going with another name? For me personally, I'm probably going Warren over him just because I think it's a more clear situation that he's either the 1 or the 2 of the team in a solid offense. Targets should be there. I don't buy that the targets won't necessarily be there so much for Loveland. So that's my issue with that. I think Tucker Kraft, coming off of an ACL, you don't love to take him, but there's a argument there too where it was like we talked about last offseason, or Vinny did at least, where he's like, I think he could be the one of this offense, the number one guy. Sure enough, he was in the games he played in. So I think Loveland's got the same kind of ability as Tucker Kraft, but I just feel like I prefer Warren and Fannin, which is why tight end 3 feels rich. I also think, especially because these guys are going into year 2, I think they're going to be very, very expensive. And, I just don't know how I feel about that. It feels like tight end 3, I don't know overall. I could actually find out. Let's do that real quick. Overall, let's find out where he's going. I mean, you got tight end 2, Brock Bowers going 21 overall. Fantasy Pros is lagging a little bit. You got tight end 3, Colston Loveland's going at 44, which, if in a 12-man league, that's 1, 2, 3. That's late round 4. That feels really early. I'd rather go other names. Let me just name some of the guys around him too. You got Jamison Williams, Jalen Waddle, Terry McLaurin, Kyron Williams, Jaden Daniels, Travis Etienne, Mecca Egbuka. Just those are some names around him. Luther Burden's a few spots higher. So, there's a lot of names there I would much prefer than taking a tight end on a guy where I don't know where he's going to be in the pecking order. So I absolutely buy the talent. I just think the price range right now, I feel like it's a little inflated. And for me, there's just other guys around where I'd rather go in that direction. But yeah, overall, I'm fully buying 4 of these guys. I'm buying Ken Walker. I'm buying Jeremiah Love. I'm buying Luther Burden. I'm buying Kyler Murray. I'm not in on Malik Willis. And then I like the talent of Jackson Dart, Amarian Hampton, and Colston Loveland, but their prices feel a little rich. I think Amarian Hampton is one where I could very easily switch over to, yes, I'm fully in. But, those other 2 guys, I think it is going to stick with pretty rich, Dart and Loveland. I mean, looking at a lot of these names too, Dart, Burden, Hampton, Loveland, all of these guys are going into year 2. So we love those jumps. If we saw anything in their rookie year, it's like, okay, well, if they're taking the next step. Sometimes the cost, though, we got to take a look. We got to analyze a little more. But yeah, I mean, so far, I think the community, you could say as a whole, is right on these guys. I'm agreeing with them. So we'll see where it ends up. I think once we start getting to the summer and we see more rankings coming out and it starts changing more often, I think that'll be fun. It'll be fun to do our own rankings as well. But overall, I think the community is doing a pretty good job with these guys. And I'm excited to see where they're going. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. As I said, we got a couple ideas for the next few episodes. Hopefully Vinny can be on both. If not, no big deal. We'll get him hopefully for episode 50 at least. 50, we've almost been doing this a year. So if you've been sticking with us, appreciate it a lot. Hopefully this hype train audit is helping you out. Are you buying the guys? Are you not? Are you buying the talent but not liking the price? You guys let me know in the comments if you have your opinions. Did I get any of these wrong? Let me know. But we'll see y'all in the next episode. Peace.